Hey, have you or a friend ever been negatively affected by a situationship? If you have, I am here to help, or at least I am here to dissect it in pop culture. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Burb's intern. I talk about women in pop culture and TV and film. I'm doing a series called Don't Be a Carrie Bradshaw. This is where I break down Carrie and Big's entire relationship from start to finish, episode by episode, giving you the juicy details, the wrongs and the rights, and a couple of fun clips while you're at it. Hey, loves, I hope you're all safe and well. Parts 6 through 8 of this series do contain talks of domestic violence, domestic abuse, and violence towards a romantic partner. So if you need to skip through parts of it, or if you can't watch this parts of the series, that's totally acceptable. I totally understand. I just want to give some people the trigger warning and the heads up because I know that can be triggering, of course. We left off with Carrie ditching Miranda because Big decided to cook her dinner. We're still in the same episode, and Carrie asked Big if he can come out with her girlfriends and they'll just have dinner and they'll mingle. Big makes a joke about already knowing her friends, but then later agrees to come. And guess what? When the day of the dinner shows up, guess who doesn't want to come anymore? He makes excuses about how it's going to rain and how he went out earlier the day and now he's tired. This obviously upsets Carrie because at first he says he's going to come and then he decides not to come. So as she's walking to dinner, in the voiceover, she calls him a self-centered 42-year-old baby. And it just kind of goes along with what we know about Big. He's just playing Carrie like a fiddle, like a fiddler on the rails. Earlier in the episode, he calls her his girlfriend. So he's giving Carrie just enough for her not to complain, but not enough for a healthy adult relationship. Oddly enough, Big plays an Uno reverse card and he actually does end up coming to dinner, which is unlikely, or I mean, just unusual for his relationship with Carrie because he usually is just super flaky. And then he gives her this half-ass apology. And then because Carrie accepts the bare minimum, she accepts his apology. And then they just kind of go back into the little circle that they like to play. We're on to episode 9. And this episode, Big continues to check out other women just throughout the entire episode. So I did a little screen cap up there. And as you can see, the women that he is checking out is his usual type, his ex-wife type and a Natasha type that he later marries in the season. And as he does this, it continues to feed Carrie's insecurity that she is not good enough for him. This is just more proof of how inconsiderate Big as a partner, because why would you as a partner want your partner to feel insecure and want them to have doubts about your relationship, especially if you feel like you're in a secure relationship? Why would you want that? Some people will make excuses for Big and say that, oh, it's not that big of an issue. And in retrospect, it may not be. I think it's disrespectful to be with your partner actively and you are checking out other women. I don't know, just don't do that. But it just kind of goes to show you, if you look at the relationship in a whole, he treats Carrie very poorly. And this is just another example of that. In usual Carrie fashion, she doesn't actually tell Big that this is bothering her. Instead, she says, I hate that cigar, which is kind of just Carrie code speak for I actually don't like another thing that you're doing. This is just something that we shouldn't do. Don't be a Carrie Bradshaw. If something is bothering you, talk it over with your partner. Don't let it fester and grow. We have come to a place in life where we don't have to accept this anymore. If you want a partner that treats you with respect, go and demand a partner that treats you with respect. If you just don't want to date and you don't want to have a partner, you can opt out now too. You don't need to be attached to a man, especially a man that disrespects you every single day. Big won't even spend the night at Carrie's house. Carrie is supposed to meet Big at his place, and this man shows up 2 hours late. I get she at this point she doesn't have a key. I'm not sure how long they've been dating. They don't really say. But she doesn't have a key, and I guess the doorman didn't let her in, even though he has seen her multiple times. And I guess Big doesn't even tell him hey, this is my girlfriend. You can let her upstairs. Carrie is obviously frustrated because first of all, she's been waiting on you for hours. You couldn't even call to say hey, I'm going to be late. And then also she's just sitting in the lobby for hours on end. She's upset and Big tells her, well, you could have waited at the coffee shop down the street. your girlfriend, your girlfriend of I don't know how many 6 months now, and you've dated prior before for a year. You're telling her that she should wait down at the coffee shop for you while you go and lollygag or do whatever it was that you're doing. This is crazy work, crazy. So Carrie's like, could you at least give me a key? Could you make space for me in your life? Once again, Big being who he is, he makes a joke out of the situation instead of answering the question. In the same episode, Big and Carrie stop sleeping together for a little while. It's been like a week, and Carrie is like, she starts to lose it, and she's like, "Why aren't we like, having intimate relations? Why doesn't he?" She just starts like pondering, and I don't understand what her like obsession is with if we are in a relationship. Like maybe she just has a higher drive, but that's fine. But it's more of just like she feels like if they aren't having intimate relations, that the relationship is doomed, that he doesn't love her anymore. Like she gets so insecure about this. And I'm like, why do you place so much emphasis on this? Is it because you're not getting other things in the relationship? So you feel like that is supposed to substitute it? So they're sleeping, and Big accidentally pushes Carrie out of the bed. The jokes write themselves. Like he obviously cannot make space for her in his life, and so he's not making space for her in his bed. Well, Carrie is very upset by this. She's like obviously awake now because she fell out of bed. So she gets back up and she like socks him in the face. And he's like, what the F, right? Obviously. And I just want to pause real quick and say, I do not support violence. Like I don't condone that. I don't think that is appropriate in any relationship, if it's a man or a woman or a woman or a man, either way going around, like just why are you hitting your partner? Anyway, that was super dramatic of Carrie to him in the face, right? So obviously Big is upset because, he's sleeping and he just got punched. So he goes to sleep on the couch. Because he goes to sleep on the couch, Carrie gets super insecure and she's like, he doesn't want to be in a relationship with anymore. Girl, I don't even think it's that. It's you punched him in the face. That's why he's going to sleep on the couch. Like, what are you talking about? You genuinely are like, he should love me even if I am abusive. Okay, homegirl. All right. They rinse and repeat this cycle throughout their entire relationship. Because Carrie is a perpetual menace, she goes up to Big while he's sleeping on the couch. She gets like a towel with ice in it and she wrings the towel out on his head and the water starts dripping and he wakes up and she's talking about how like she's like, I'm sorry, the cigar wasn't actually about the cigar. And he's like, it never is. And they kind of start to have like where she's trying to like initiate a proper conversation and trying to apologize. Call me crazy, but at this point, I do think that Big does like Carrie. And hear me out, hear me out. If Big is such this hot shot guy and he can get any woman, and he's like obviously been married before, and then he gets married later on in season 3, if Big wanted to find a pygmisha that do all the like, wife amenities that he needed, he could go find that person. Like Carrie doesn't cook, she doesn't clean, she doesn't do the like traditional wife things. So why wouldn't Big go and find a person that can do all those things for him while also, being a little chaotic or being a little like aggressive like he likes Carrie to be? Carrie confesses all the things that have been bothering her about her relationship with Mr. Big, how he won't give her a key to his place, how he keeps staring at other women, how he won't spend the night at her place, how he can't even make space for her in his bed or his life. Guess what? Big actually changes. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Big did not change. We know that Big doesn't change. You know what Big did? Big made a joke. Again, every time I have a serious conversation, Big makes a joke. If Mr. Big actually changed, I'd be out of a job. Like, you know what I mean? Like, a girl wouldn't be making money if Mr. Big changed. So, you know what? Thank you, Mr. Big. So, Big makes a joke. Carrie still stays with him. Tale as old as time, right? He does make a compromise, though. He ends up going to, and that's the end of the episode. This was part 6 of Don't Be a Carrie Bradshaw. I will catch you in part 7. I have a couple important things I want to talk to you guys about in part 7. Welcome back, ladies and gents. This is part 7 of a series I like to call Don't Be a Carrie Bradshaw. We left off with Big compromising. I forgot to add in there that Big tells Carrie that he's crazy about her, and I just think that's a whole like manipulation tactic. But it made me think. I was thinking, why does Carrie stay with Big if he knowingly treats her badly? And I think it gets into the conversation of how trauma alters the way we think and act. You know how people are like, that's this altered my brain chemistry. Like me, I'd be like, going to the Beyonce concert altered my brain chemistry. But like, let's actually talk about a serious conversation. Trauma affects the way we act in life and the decisions we make. When you don't heal your trauma and you make decisions based on fear and based on lack thereof, you will put yourself in dangerous situations. I think a lot of people, for them, they've only experienced love with pain or love that comes with angst and suffering. So when they find themselves to be in a relationship, they feel like the relationship isn't complete if they are not suffering or if they don't have to suffer for that love. I believe this is the main reason why Big and Carrie keep coming back to each other. I think they both have a need for dysfunction. If you don't heal your trauma, you will keep seeing it trigger you and appear in all aspects of your life. And I will touch more on this in season 3. But I just wanted to put that out there real quick. Back to Big and Carrie's conversation about compromise. So he came over to her place to compromise, is what he was trying to do. He still doesn't end up giving her a key, and the reason he gives is because he's already given 5 keys away, and once you give those keys away, you never get them back. And I was just thinking, I was like, maybe I'm ignorant, but like, you're a big man on campus, you got money, change your locks. Like, not saying he has to give her a key, but it's like you're making up all these excuses, and all I can think about is how you have money to change your locks. Like, you should have been did that. Episode 10 is called The Caste System. And Carrie thinks that she's falling in love with Big. And the reason I say she thinks she's falling in love with Big is because I don't think Carrie knows Big well enough to be in love with him or to be falling in love with him. We have to remember that we are viewing the show from Carrie's eyes. Everything that Carrie knows about Big is everything the audience knows about Big. And what do we really know about this man? We don't know his name. We don't know what his job. We don't know, like, I don't know this man. I'm sorry to this man. Mr. Big gifts Carrie a swan purse, and she like freaks because she says that like she loves him, and he quote doesn't know her at all. And that was just silly to me because like from Carrie's style and fashion, like she's definitely done bolder things. Also, to Stanford's wedding, this woman wore an entire bird on her head. Like she shot a bird out of the sky and put it smack on her head. And that was like her outfit for Stanford's wedding. So I was just like, how is the swan purse not your style? The swan purse is outrageous for her, but I'm still thinking about the pink toothbrush head and how that was the single most encouraging moment of their entire relationship. I'm sorry for not adding a picture of the swan purse. TikTok doesn't let me add certain photos. It has to be like over a certain number of pixels. So I apologize for that. Anyway, we're moving on now. Carrie tells Big that she is in love with him, and Big gets like super uncomfortable. He like makes a weird face, and it's just like super funny because yeah. And I don't want to touch too much on this because I think that Big does fall in love with Carrie later on in their relationship, but at this stage they are in two completely different places. I think like 3 minutes into the episode later, he says, "You can take it back if you want," which just like adds insult to injury, and it's just a hot mess for everyone involved. Big takes Carrie to this party on Park Avenue to meet one of his friends. And at this party, there's like a very stark difference in how the other women are dressed compared to Carrie. Like, as you can see up there, they're wearing business casual, tweed, pearls, Chanel. And then you can see in the corner the little swan purse that Big gifted Carrie. So, like, they all have like different variations of this purse. On the latter, Carrie is wearing this cute little tube top with a midi skirt, and she has her hair straight. You would think that Big opening his social circle up to Carrie would make her happy, but she's super upset because she feels like he doesn't know her at all, and also because he didn't say I love you back, and he told her like she can take it back if she wants. Big can see the obvious shift in Carrie's demeanor, and he says, "Don't be a bitch." And I absolutely hate that line because as a man, why are you calling a woman a bitch? Like, don't be weird. Don't be a freak. I don't know. Just, ugh. That whole thing is just, but I do agree with him. Carrie was being rude. And because Carrie is still upset, the woman that is hosting, she tries to smoke in the woman's home. And she's like, can you go out into the terrace? Carrie's just like so entitled. Like that scene made me so mad when Carrie tries to smoke in this woman's home. So because you're upset that your boyfriend didn't say I love you back, you're going to smoke in somebody else's home. Why would you like, you're an adult, Carrie. Behave like one. He's taking Carrie to expensive, fancy restaurants, buying her exclusive accessories and jewelry, and, just being Mr. Big, also introducing her to his wealthier friends in his social circle. Everything that Carrie has been asking of him for the past year and a half, but all because he didn't say, I love you back. She's throwing a fit. So she meets one of her kind of like old time friends at this Park Avenue party and goes home with him. They don't sleep together, but it's just like Carrie being like self sabotage. And because of, Carrie's crazy, Big eventually does say in the episode, he does say, I love you to Carrie. And then she kind of self reflects. So in part 6, we talk about how Big won't even sleep over at Carrie's house. They only are ever at his place. So since Carrie's always over there, she wants a drawer. Big won't even let her have a drawer. So she doesn't have a drawer, not a key, not a toothbrush. But I mean, Big tells Carrie he loves her and she takes that at face value. So Carrie starts to test Big and she starts leaving little things over at his house. And guess what he does? He grabs a little goodie bag, puts all her stuff in it, brings it back to her place. She kind of is like, okay, why did you do that? So she's like, hey, I don't look like this every day. Like, I need my makeup, I need my hair tools. So can I leave stuff at your place? And he's like, why would you want to leave stuff at my place? He starts to deflect. And she's like, because, I'm your girlfriend. And he's like, well, I don't want to leave stuff at your place, so you shouldn't leave stuff at mine. And that's crazy. What? I think this man has a side piece. I think he has somebody else that's on the side, and he can't have like women things laying around if he's like trying to spit game with other women. Carrie starts to make these passive aggressive remarks about how she has to go all the way home just to blow dry her hair. And honestly, I would too, because this man, he doesn't even have a blow dryer, like a blow dryer that you can at least borrow. Like, what is going on? What does this man do? Carrie finds a picture of her and Mr. Big tucked away in a drawer, and suddenly her mind is like wiped clear. She's like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Everything that he's done in the past is just like she's fine with it now. Once again, she's okay with not even the bare minimum. I don't even know what to call this minimum because it's not even bare minimum. This man won't even let her keep tampons at his place. When she has to use like products, he goes, oh, we can just go and pick them up. What? Huh? Carrie's always saying unhinged things, but this next line might be one of her craziest things she's ever said. Carrie says, it was a small step for mankind, but it was a really big step for Big. That he had a picture of her in the drawer. Let me tell you something, Carrie. Sit down with me, Carrie. Your grandmother, your mother, and every single woman that came before you did not push for feminist rights in the 70s for you to behave this way. You should be ashamed of yourself, Carrie. Are you kidding? You made a fool out of me today. I might have to cut my nails, grab a shovel, and dig Carrie out of the trenches myself because she's not getting out of there by herself. She's not getting out of there alone. We're all going to have to gather up. All of us as women are just going to have to link arms together and help this woman get out of the trenches. Okay, guys, that was part 7 for you. All right, let's lock 'em and load 'em. This is part 8 of a series I like to call Don't Be a Carrie Bradshaw. We left off with Carrie once again accepting the bare minimum from Mr. Big. So we are on to episode 12. Big tells Carrie that he might be moving to Paris for the summer, and Carrie is obviously distraught. She tells the girls how she wasn't even a factor in his decision making. This makes Carrie kind of have sort of a mental breakdown. And while she's having this breakdown, she kind of self reflects a bit. She talks about how her and Big's relationship is very push and pull. I agree. But she also says how there's a fine line between pleasure and pain. Carrie calls Big to tell him her grievances again, and this man could not care less. He she also wakes him up, so he is in bed and he's sleeping, and she's on the other end of the line. She's screaming at him. It becomes very obvious to me as I'm rewatching this that Big just he likes the drama because why put up with this? I don't understand him. I think he himself is so toxic that he just accepts this like bad behavior and these poor decision making on Carrie's part. And Carrie has done this before. In season one, where they were very freshly dating, she came to his house super drunk, also opened his liquor cabinet, continues to drink, starts yelling at him about how he doesn't take her to nice restaurants and how she's the embarrassing girl for him and that she has to fit into this little box. The whole thing is just a headache, honestly. This is the episode that Carrie goes bat shit. She goes ballistic on Big and she's like quite violent towards him. They had this super heated argument and I'm going to get into it. Carrie comes over to Big's house to tell him that she will try to make the relationship work despite Paris. And Big is so nonchalant. Like he really does not give a fuck. Pay attention to Big's word choice when we get into this conversation that they're about to have. So Carrie asks him, do you want to, because she brings over McDonald's. You see she's wearing her beret because Paris. So she's like, do you want a burger or do you want a fish fillet? And Big goes, I don't care. Obviously, they're not talking about the actual burger and fish fillet. I just love that scene, this entire scene now, not the violence part of it, but like the actors and the script writing, the way they talk to each other, because they say words without saying words. He is saying he doesn't care whether or not they have a relationship um, after Paris or even now. And she's asking him about burgers and fish fillet. Big's body language, his tone, everything about this scene is super telling about the way Big feels about Carrie. Okay, this is how the conversation goes. I'm going to be looking down for a little bit of it so I don't mess up the words. So Big says, but you'd be moving to Paris for yourself, right? I mean, don't move for me. Carrie says, why would I move to Paris if it wasn't for you? Big says, I'm just saying, I don't want you to uproot your life and expect anything. Expect anything from the person she's dating, from the person she's been in a relationship with for months? This is when Carrie gets violent. So she throws the McDonald's. She says, like, I am such an idiot. And then she throws the McDonald's, throws the beret at Big's head. And yes, I get that Big is like super manipulative. He's a douchebag. He's a finance bro, PP bro. You know, there are so many bad things about Big. But why are we excusing physical violence? You let this man get you so mad that you lose your temper to the point where you're losing your character. You are letting him exhibit behaviors in you that you wouldn't normally do. That's another thing. If he's making her so upset, why doesn't Carrie leave? If he makes you lose your temper this way, homegirl, protect your peace. Go away. Don't condone this kind of behavior. At this point, they're both screaming at each other. He's telling her to calm down. She says she's so sick of calming down. He talks about how if he needs to be in a relationship where if he needs to move to Paris, then he needs to move to Paris. Carrie accuses him of pushing her away and saying how he never like wants to be in like a serious relationship. He shuts her down and then afterwards he says, I don't want to talk about it anymore. They kind of like end the fight. Carrie leaves and she's like, why do you always do this? And he's like, well, I guess he gives her this excuse about like, well, I guess old habits die hard or something like that. And it's more of just, I guess, the 90s way of saying like, if you don't heal your trauma, you're going to keep living it over and over again. You're going to keep repeating patterns and cycles that you may not want to be tethered to. Carrie and Big don't have very big highs, but they have very big lows. And when they fight, it is very intense and extreme. It can get very violent. Carrie talks about pain and pleasure in this episode, and it was kind of just like what I was saying about how some people never know a love that's not dramatic and extreme. It usually stems from like childhood or watching their parents' relationships. So in their own relationships, they try to replicate that. And before she leaves, Big tells Carrie he loves her. And what's crazy, maybe I'm just like crazy, but I do think that Big loves her in this point in time. I think Big is one of those people that self sabotages, and he doesn't realize that hurting people is not a good way to show them that you love them. So he keeps doing these things where he's like, well, maybe I can do this and it'll work out this time around. And he's just repeating the same patterns. Like, I can't keep emphasizing it because this is all I've been talking about. So they break up in this episode, and then later Big comes back to Carrie's apartment and they hook up one last time. For now, we obviously know they get back together. Um, they just keep repeating the same patterns, bootleg Tom and Jerry. Now we're on to episode 13. Carrie is obsessing over Big nonstop, won't stop talking about him. It gets so bad to the point where her friends sit her down, have an intervention, and they're like, hey, we can't hear about this anymore. You need to see a therapist. And her response to this is insulting Miranda and being like, I know why you need to see a therapist, but I don't need to see a therapist. This is why I have friends. Carrie being a bad friend 101. Like, she always does this. Like, why insult Miranda? And two, your friends are not your personal therapist. You trauma dumping has an effect on people. You cannot just go around and like spreading around negativity all the time and thinking that other people are supposed to tolerate it just because they're your friends. Carrie is super resistant to the idea of therapy, and I get it because it was very stigmatized. I think now we're becoming way more accepting to it, and we actually like kind of frown on people for not going to therapy. But back then it was frowned upon to go to therapy. People were like, "What's wrong with you? Why would you need a therapist? Like, you must have severe problems to need a therapist." Lots of negative connotations came with it. It doesn't go well with the shrink, or we don't really use that term anymore, but it's the 90s. It does not go well with the therapist, but Carrie tries to try again and give it another shot. That is also when she meets Bon Jovi up here. So she's only actively coming back to therapy so that she can see this Bon Jovi character. And afterwards, he asks her out. They have a nice time. They go on a date. After the date, they play Twister and then they hook up. Carrie finally asks him, hey, why are you in therapy? And he tells her that anytime or after he sleeps with a woman, he completely loses interest. And then he's like, why are you in therapy? And she's like, finally, she gets the breakthrough moment because the therapist tells her that she has a pattern of choosing the wrong men, because the pattern with her is that she always feels like she has bad men. But the therapist was like, what do these men have in common? They all dated you, which I don't know if that was like the best piece of advice. Like, I think she definitely could have gone deeper and could have looked into childhood trauma and abandonment issues. But that's a story for a different time. Okay, back to the breakthrough moment. Carrie says she chooses the wrong men, and she's finally starting to see this pattern. But the thing is that Carrie sees this pattern, and the next episode she meets like this Dean Winters character, and she kind of is trying to change it. But then right after that episode, she goes right back into the patterns that she does every single day, and she quits the therapist after this, so she's not progressing. That was part 8 of this series. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll hope to have the next series out pretty soon for you.